Welcome to Sunday School for Sunday, November 26th. For our junior students, I do not own the rights to this music. Today's Bible basis is coming out of Exodus chapter 40, verses 16 through 30, verse 34, and verse 38. The title of today's story, Meeting with God. Hey, Jayla. Rochelle ran to catch up with her friend. I need your advice. Okay, what's up? Jayla stacked her books into her locker. It's Mrs. Kent. She really doesn't like me. I asked her for help on the homework, like you said, but she won't do it. What should I do now? Girl, don't even bother. If she doesn't want to help, go ahead and let her fail you. Your parents can't blame you for this. But that idea bothered Rochelle. There had to be a better solution than failing the class. At home, Rochelle asked her older sister. Destiny had already had Mrs. Kent as a teacher, and she had the same problems. Destiny, what can I do? I want to raise my grade in math, but I just don't get it. Two things. First, get a tutor at the school. Second, have you prayed about it? You should be doing that before you ask anyone else for advice. That answer made Rochelle smile. Pray about it. Why hadn't she thought of that already? In her room that night, Rochelle laid aside all the advice from her friends and knelt by her bed to enter into the Lord's presence and seek His guidance. Why is God the first one Rochelle should seek? Whom do you go to first when you have a problem? And what kinds of problems can God handle? How can you enter into God's presence? God gave His people a place where they could experience His presence because it was a special place. The builders took care to follow every instruction, down to the finest detail. This tabernacle was important to them because God's presence, more holy and amazing than anything else, would be dwelling there. Our lesson scripture, Exodus chapter 40, verses 16 through 30, verse 34, and then verse 38. Thus did Moses according to all that the Lord commanded him, so did he. And it came to pass in the first month in the second year, on the first day of the month, that the tabernacle was reared up. And Moses reared up the tabernacle and fastened his sockets, and set up the boards thereof, and put in the bars thereof, and reared up his pillars. And he spread abroad the tent over the tabernacle, and put the covering of the tent above upon it, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he took and put the testimony into the ark, and set the staves on the ark, and put the mercy seat above upon the ark. And he brought the ark into the tabernacle, and set up the veil of the covering, and covered the ark of the testimony, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he put the table in the tent of the congregation upon the side of the tabernacle northward, without the veil. And he set the bread in order upon it before the Lord, as the Lord had commanded Moses. And he put the candlestick in the tent of the congregation, over against the table, on the side of the tabernacle southward. And he lighted the lamps before the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he put the golden altar in the tent of the congregation before the veil. And he burnt sweet incense thereon, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he set up the hanging at the door of the tabernacle. And he put the altar of burnt offering by the door of the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation, and offered upon it the burnt offering and the meat offering, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he set the laver between the tent of the congregation and the altar, and put water there to wash withal. Then a cloud covered the tent of the congregation, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. For the cloud of the Lord was upon the tabernacle by day, and fire was on it by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel throughout all their journeys. God was pleased that the Israelites built the tabernacle exactly the way He asked them to. And in this passage, we see that His presence filled the place they had built. Even today, God's presence is available to His children. He dwells in any person that makes a home for Him in their hearts. Have you worked hard to prepare a humble, worshipful heart for God? Or is it cluttered with what doesn't belong? The memory verse for today's lesson is Exodus chapter 40, verse 38. For the cloud of the Lord was upon the tabernacle by day, and fire was on it by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel throughout all their journeys. What can you do to experience more of God's presence? What do you need to clean out of your life to make yourself a tabernacle for God? This week, you are challenged to tell at least 3 people how you have experienced God's presence in your life. Be sure to let them know they can experience God's presence too. The end. God bless you and thank you for joining me today.